All right, guys, I got my old ratty notebook with my million ideas in it, so you know it's serious business. Okay, so how to brand yourself as an artist. First of all, we need to talk about what is branding, because I think a lot of people think about like giant corporations, or they think about like, you know, packaging or their favorite food products or something like that, and they're like, oh, I know about that branding, but what is branding for an artist? So when we talk about branding as an artist, and really branding as anything, all that means is that your content is recognizable due to you being consistent with it. So that just means that having like a consistent and cohesive look to what you put out, as far as specifically the artwork you put out and how you package it. So branding literally just has to do with being recognizable, and you are recognizable by being consistent. There is another aspect to branding though that you cannot ignore, and that is you need to make sure that not only are you recognizable and consistent, but that you are appealing to the audience that you are hoping to sell to. And even if you're not necessarily trying to sell something all day long, you're at least trying to like sell yourself. You're at least trying to like sell the idea of people liking your art. So even if you're not talking about physical products right off the bat, you still are selling something as a brand. So when I use the word sell, that's what I'm talking about. So what I mean by target audience, and let me know down in the comments if you guys would like a video specifically on learning how to find your target audience, because that is a whole nother discussion unto itself. But once you've figured out exactly who you are trying to appeal to, then you have to make sure that what you're doing is appealing to them, right? So if you are maybe have some kind of artwork that's like you're into more like comic book graphic design, then maybe you want to have like a stronger, bolder feel to your work to feel more action-packed and attract people that are going to be into that. Let's say you're doing something that's like more flowery, plants, organic, then you're probably going to want to have like a softer feel. You're going to want to have like sort of more of a green, rustic feel, so that people that are into nature are going to resonate with your brand. So when you are thinking about branding yourself, selling yourself as an artist, think about who it is you're trying to appeal to, and it can be helpful to look at some other brands that also appeal to that audience and kind of see what they're doing. So when you're brainstorming, you really need to think about A, what kind of artwork you create, and B, what kind of person you're trying to attract, because those two things need to be unified when you start to think about how to specifically brand yourself. Okay, now before you can actually brand yourself as an entire artist package, you need to make sure that you have a consistent body of work. I talked about this in another video about portfolios. You can see that right here. And that video you'll really find helpful if you're not quite sure exactly your voice in your work yet, if you haven't quite yet picked out a style or decided on a cohesive body of work, or are not quite sure exactly which facet of your artwork is the most marketable. Because if you're like me, like most other artists, you're probably good at doing a few different styles, or there's a few different things that you really like. So you need to kind of narrow it down and make sure that you're forming a cohesive body of work. So make sure to check out that portfolio video first, and then you're going to be able to have a body of work that makes sense to brand. So one of the first ways that you can start visually branding yourself, really setting yourself apart from other people, is by having a logo. And I know some people get a little nervous by that. They're like, oh my gosh, a logo? Do I have to like design this thing? Is it going to cost me hundreds of dollars? The answer is no and no. I recommend Fiverr.com. I'll leave a link for you down below. I've actually gotten a few logos from various people, all over the world, that will design logos for you. I think I've gotten 4 or 5 logos, each of them for probably like $20 or less or something. Like, they were really, really good. And the nice thing is that people have their portfolios up, so you can see their past work, and then you can request a logo from someone whose design you already like, which is exactly how I recommend you doing it. Like, don't go to someone that does very flourishy, colorful work if you want something that's bold, black and white, and direct, and vice versa. Like, take a look at what people are good at. Find something that sort of fits your idea of what your target audience is going to resonate with, sort of a layout design, maybe if you have some certain fonts in mind, something like that, and then hire that person to create a logo for you. And trust me, having a logo is going to sort of help propel you for the rest of your branding, because once you have this sort of solid, recognizable icon that you can use on everything, then the rest of your branding will sort of seem to branch off of that. And can I give you a little suggestion when it comes to coming up with a logo? In my history, what I have seen work well, try to have a logo that will look relatively good in a circle or in a square or in a rectangular situation. Like sometimes you see people's logos and it might be their whole name and it's some really long piece of script, but when your logo is super long and skinny like this, or conversely, if it's a really long, straight, narrow thing, it's not going to look good in a lot of formats. So you may wind up having to actually have like two logos, like the long version of your whole name and then a shorter one that has like just a few letters. So some people go that way. I recommend just having a logo that can be fit in various small shapes right from the beginning, so that you're not having to alter it every time you're going onto like a different platform or something. Now that you've sort of figured out kind of a feel and hopefully have gotten a logo, the next step is going to be to pick like one or two fonts, probably two fonts that you can use throughout all of the social medias or all of the platforms that you are able to control, or at least get as close as possible. So for example, on my website, I have a regular font that I do all of the regular writing in my blog posts and everything, and then I have this font that is all uppercase letters that I use for all my titles and anything that I want to really draw attention to people. And I think that that works really nicely. They look really nice together. They look very clean together. They're both sans serif fonts. So I recommend usually having two different fonts, one for heading and one for regular writing. And what I will do is on other social media platforms, obviously on Facebook and Instagram, that kind of thing, you're not really able to choose your typeface, but on some other platforms you kind of can. So when I'm using Canva or anything else to create any sort of material for myself, I try to stick as closely as possible with the two fonts that I have chosen for my website. And I even use those same two fonts when I'm creating like business cards or postcards or anything else, any kind of printed materials. Even when I'm doing the tags on my art shows, I will use the same fonts that I have on my website. So again, that consistency, so that when somebody sees something, obviously you're not going to have an exclusive font that only you use, but at least in your viewers' realm and your viewers' regular world, when they see those fonts, especially if they're two fonts together, you will automatically come to mind. And that's what we want. We want your brand. The reason why you have a brand is so that all of the output that you put out has this cohesive feeling, so that if someone sees something right off the bat, they know that it's your work. And that's really goals. If we could have our way with branding, anytime someone saw anything you put out, they would automatically know it was you without having to see your name attached to it. That's goals. And again, going with those one or two fonts, I recommend you pick two, maybe three colors to use on everything. Now, this goes along with having your logo. My logo, I have a black version, I have a white version, and then I also have a colored version using the three colors that I have chosen to be my branding colors. So anytime I need to highlight any words or border anything on my website, on my business cards, on my emails, on my newsletters, on my headings, my social media headings, any of those places that kind of need a little boost of color, I'm going to use those three colors primarily and usually exclusively to make sure that, again, I have this cohesive visual on all of my work. Okay, now this is a step that is not 100% necessary for branding, but I mean, it's kind of 100% necessary for being an artist, so you may as well just get it done. And I know people always groan when I say it, but you should write an artist statement. And guess what? I have a video for that right here. Writing an artist statement is going to help you make sure that you have a clear view of what your work is about and what you hope that it does for other people. Like how you hope that your work affects your audience will influence the type of branding that you're going to use throughout your work. So although you don't necessarily need to have an artist statement out there for the world to see, even if you just have it for yourself, even if you just kind of write down a paragraph or a few ideas, having something written out that you can kind of reference and that you can kind of go back to anytime you're sort of like, should I take my work and my branding in this direction? Should I write about this type of thing? Should I share this type of content? You can go back to that artist statement and make sure that you are staying in line with what you feel is the most important aspect of your work. That's the artist statement. You are writing down the most important aspects of your work, and you need to keep those in mind so that you are forming a cohesive voice about them. And I'm about to talk about what your voice is in just a sec. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about the visual aspects of branding, but there's also sort of like an audio or physical presence sense of branding. And that is that you want to make sure that you're using the proper voice for your target audience. And when I say voice, I don't mean like coming up with a funny accent or talking really high or talking really low. Like, that's not what I mean about voice. What I mean about voice is your vocabulary, the words that you use, possibly the topics that you talk about. Your voice lets your audience know that they're among a familiar person or a familiar situation, and people like what they already know. So if you can create a space, either if you have a YouTube video, if you have Instagram videos, also just writing, captions, all of your captions, blog posting, newsletters, just wording on your website, everything, all of that is your voice. And so what you want to make sure to do is that you have the voice that your audience is going to be most comfortable with. So using vernacular that they understand. So if you are doing a lot of digital art, maybe you're a concept artist doing sort of like video game mock-ups and stuff like that. I don't know anything about that, but I'm sure that there are key words and key terms that people who know about video games would use. So you want to make sure that you are fluent in that vocabulary. Same thing, if you're doing a lot of plant drawings, maybe you want to learn a little bit more about botany so that instead of just doing a plant and being like, oh, this is a fern, you could say like, oh, this is a such and such kind of fern and it flowers during this time of year, or what, actually, you know what, sorry, ferns don't flower. That's what makes them ferns, is they have seeds on the back, they don't flower. So anyways, all I'm saying is, specific examples aside, make sure that you are talking in a way as well as subjects, the things that your audience are going to resonate with. Basically what you want to do is just think about like how your audience talks. I'm sort of more of a casual person here on YouTube. I tend to have a lot of people commenting on my videos like, I love the way that you just talk. You're very conversational. You're not stodgy. You're very loose. I mean, obviously, I'm just hanging out in my house. I've made videos up on the top of mountaintops on my hikes and stuff like that because I know that my target audience, A, tends to be more of a relaxed, sort of casual. They're definitely very interested in fine art, but they're more relaxed and casual. And B, they really like nature, just like me. That's the thing, too, about target audiences, is that a lot of times, especially with visual artists or musical artists with artists, our brand coincidentally usually winds up aligning with the same type of people that we are. So it's really nice because don't feel like in order to brand yourself as an artist you have to reinvent yourself or be something that you're not. No. I am definitely not advocating to be something that you're not. All I'm saying is that just make sure that you are your best self, you are your best artistic self, but that you have some sort of focus, goal, and that your audience can tell what it is. And so you just want to use the same kind of language and vocabulary that's going to make them comfortable and let them know that you guys are all on the same page. Another way that you can actually use your voice is by having like a few kind of sort of catchphrases or a few, topics or things that people are really used to hearing you talk about. Like for me, I've got, welcome friends. Welcome friends, it's Kaylee Bird. If you did learn something today, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed, ding the notification bell, and come back every single week for all the best fine art tutorials and art biz advice. And if you notice, like for me, for example, a lot of my artwork has a lot of plants and things in it. I'm really into the natural world. I'm constantly sharing things about being out in nature. I'm always talking about hiking and going out and camping and that kind of thing because I know that resonates with my audience. Even if I'm not making a painting that day, I at least know that that kind of information is going to resonate with my audience and going to make them be like, oh, Kaylee Bird, she likes to be outside too, so do I. I also talk a lot in my videos about eco-friendly products or eco-friendly ways to paint, that kind of thing. So not only are those all things that are just inherently how I feel and who I am, but I know that they appeal to my audience because I have learned who my target audience is. So I know that when I bring up all those kinds of topics, they all go in with the same sort of artwork, the same sort of feeling, the same sort of environment that I'm trying to create with my audience. So what I'm trying to tell you is that you don't have to only talk about your artwork all the time, but just make sure anything else you bring in is also going to be part of your audience, that your audience is going to resonate with that. So as I said, the most important thing to creating a good brand is to be recognizable due to how consistent you are and making sure that your voice resonates with your target audience. It's really not too difficult, but I know that especially for early artists, it can be quite daunting. So I've got something special for you. I have revamped my artist mentoring packages on my website to include one specifically on how to help you create your own brand. I will go through and hold your hand via Zoom and create the most beautiful brand that you will be able to use consistently on all of your social medias and within your own website. I will even show you exactly what I use to create a lot of the polished content on my website to help you out with that beautiful branded look. So make sure to click down in the description below to check out those and all my other artist mentoring packages, and let's work one-on-one together. Check out this playlist right here for tons and tons of other small business art advice to help you excel one step at a time. I know you can do it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Make sure you are subscribed, ding that notification bell, and come back every single week for all the best fine art tutorials and art biz advice.